Hi everyone, my name is Lauren Hinton and I'm really excited to talk to you about China's disaster management system. In writing a research paper for my Chinese History DIS, I discovered that a Chinese ethnic group, the Uyghurs, had been displaced based on the premise that their current and culturally significant housing did not meet the standard of Chinese emergency management policy. The new housing provided by the Chinese government was poorly constructed and far removed from the area in which the Uyghurs were accustomed. This sparked an interest to take a deeper look into Chinese disaster relief policy. So here we go. China has a very rich history dating back over 5,000 years. Unfortunately, countless natural disasters too have been a part of its history. Despite the over $150 billion in damages and expenses as a result of disasters from the 1980s into the 2000s, China did not consider the need for disaster management systems until the SARS pandemic in 2002. By July 2005, China had established the Emergency Management Office to be the headquarters of its emergency management system. Traditionally, China has been vulnerable to almost all natural disasters because of its vast territory and complicated weather and geographical conditions. Examples of these include droughts, flood, forestry and grassland fires, earthquakes, typhoons, heavy snow, and landslides. These unfortunate disasters occur with great frequency, killing thousands of people and affecting millions. China's hazard and disaster planning. In addition to natural disasters, technological or man-made disasters are also prevalent in China. There have been numerous fire and mining incidents and most famously food safety issues. This photo depicts the widespread milk and infant formula contamination that occurred most recently in China. Other disasters include pandemics such as SARS and avian flu, which were large-scale disasters that endangered public health and safety of Chinese citizens and the rest of the world. Terrorism is also an important part of emergency management. Most recent accounts of terrorism in China center around violence in the name of political resistance. This is largely attributed to the government policies that restrict the practice of religion and political expression, especially in the Xinjiang region, where a majority of Uyghurs live. China's implementation process. In this top-down implementation pattern process, the Chinese government takes center stage, consulting several ministries in order to carry out its emergency management program. Among these include the Ministry of Civil Affairs, the National Disaster Reduction Center, Ministry of Public Security, Ministry of Public Health, and the National Civil Defense Agency. All of these work together to help ensure China's emergency management process. The Emergency Management Office covers emergency planning, natural disasters, technological accidents, public sanitation issues, social security concerns, and recovery and reconstruction activities. Essentially, different types of disasters are managed by different government departments. At present, the permanent disaster management departments include China's State Flood Control and Drought Relief Headquarters, State Headquarters for Earthquake Resistance and Disaster Relief, as well as the State Headquarters for Forestry, Fire, and Prevention. The current framework of disaster management in China is divided into 6 different phases: prevention, mitigation, preparation, emergency rescue and recovery, as well as reconstruction. In terms of key players, China's military, or the People's Liberation Army, play a vital role during disaster events. Among their responsibilities, active duty soldiers are in charge of keeping peace and managing fire disasters. They're actually considered fire brigades under the Ministry of Public Security. An extension of the Chinese government, relief agencies such as the Red Cross Society handle everything from prevention to recovery and reconstruction, though in China they act primarily as fundraisers for the state-run disaster management efforts. All in all, it's important to note that the emergency management program in China is strongly controlled and monitored by the Chinese government. Obstacles faced by China's emergency management program. China's current emergency management structure has brought on several obstacles for the country. The most prominent are the lack of a centralized agency, such as FEMA, that knows all about the phases of disaster Rather, China has its functions split into several departments or ministries. Issues that arise with this are there's no legal mechanism put in place to ensure the validity of participation in the NGOs or non-government organizations. Misappropriation of funds being donated has also impacted the country, resulting in less donations overall. For example, recently China has been involved in a scandal, whereas the Red Cross Society was taking in funds that were not being used for the betterment of the victims of disasters. China's disaster record has played an instrumental role in the country today. For example, the Sichuan earthquake in 2008 resulted in new fire prevention laws. China's disasters as a whole have caused the country to ramp up its mitigation and preparation capabilities, receiving classes from experts abroad. Several schools of emergency management have been formed in Beijing. Uh, Acts of terrorism and perceived terrorism at the hands of the Uyghur people have resulted in increased tensions between the Chinese government and the Islamic group, as well as tighter restrictions, closer monitoring, and discrimination of the Uyghur people. Emergency management in China has come a long way, but still has several large barriers to break down. The country will need to address several obstacles, such as those provided in my presentation, before they can truly be considered successful in their endeavors. This concludes my presentation. Thank you for listening.